What if the greatest obstacle standing between you and a peaceful life is not the world around you, but the quiet habits you repeat every single day without even realizing it? Most people believe that life is shaped by extraordinary moments, major decisions, unexpected opportunities, or dramatic turning points. Yet Buddhist wisdom teaches something very different. Our lives are quietly built by the small choices we make every day, the thoughts we entertain, the emotions we hold on to, and the habits we practice without question. In the same way, our lives can also be quietly destroyed by those very habits. Not all self-sabotage looks dramatic. Sometimes it appears as constant self-doubt. Sometimes it hides behind perfectionism. Sometimes it whispers that you are not ready, not worthy, or not enough. Over time, these quiet habits become invisible, and because they feel familiar, we begin believing they are simply part of who we are. The Buddha observed that suffering rarely begins with the outside world. More often, it begins within the mind itself. Before another person can discourage us, we have already doubted ourselves. Before life closes a door, we have often convinced ourselves not to knock. We wait for confidence before taking action. We wait for certainty before making a decision. We wait until we feel completely prepared before beginning the life we dream about. Days become months. Months become years. Slowly, we mistake waiting for wisdom, when in reality, we are quietly abandoning our own potential. This is one of the most subtle forms of self-sabotage. Nothing dramatic happens. Life simply passes while we remain trapped inside habits that no longer serve us. The first Buddhist habit that begins rebuilding a life is surprisingly simple. It is the habit of self-awareness. Before anything can change, it must first be seen clearly. Imagine walking through a room in complete darkness. You may stumble over furniture again and again, believing the room itself is dangerous. But the moment someone lights a small candle, everything changes. The furniture has not moved. The room has not become different. Only your ability to see has changed. Self-awareness is that candle. It allows you to notice the quiet patterns that have been guiding your life for years. Perhaps you always expect the worst before something begins. Perhaps you criticize yourself more harshly than you would ever criticize a friend. Perhaps you believe every anxious thought without ever questioning whether it is true. Awareness does not judge these habits. It simply shines light upon them, and once a habit is seen clearly, it begins losing the power it once held over you. The second habit grows naturally from the first. It is learning to stop fighting reality. Many of us spend enormous amounts of energy wishing life were different. We resist change. We replay conversations that cannot be undone. We argue with the past as though it might finally listen. We worry endlessly about a future that has not yet arrived. The mind becomes exhausted because it is constantly struggling against what already is. Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that reality is never the source of suffering. Our resistance to reality is. This does not mean we should stop improving our lives or accepting injustice. It simply means that peace begins with acknowledging the truth of this moment before deciding what comes next. A doctor cannot heal a patient without first accepting the diagnosis. In the same way, we cannot rebuild our lives while refusing to see them as they truly are. Imagine standing before a mirror covered in dust. No matter how beautiful the reflection behind it may be, the dust prevents you from seeing it clearly. Many people spend years trying to change the reflection instead of simply cleaning the mirror. Self-awareness wipes away the dust. Acceptance allows you to look honestly at what remains. Together, these two habits create the foundation for every lasting transformation. Without awareness, change becomes impossible because we never recognize what needs to change. Without acceptance, change becomes exhausting because we waste our energy denying reality instead of working with it. As you continue this journey, remember that rebuilding your life does not begin with becoming someone new. It begins with seeing yourself clearly and treating yourself with honesty instead of fear. Every peaceful life is built one habit at a time, one mindful choice at a time, and one compassionate decision at a time. In the next part, we will explore two more powerful Buddhist habits that help you release the painful stories your mind has been repeating for far too long, making space for a life guided not by fear, but by wisdom and inner peace. Once we begin seeing ourselves more clearly and accepting reality as it is, another question naturally arises. If the present moment is where peace exists, then what keeps pulling us away from it? According to Buddhist wisdom, it is often not life itself that causes the greatest suffering, but the stories we continue telling ourselves about life. Every person carries an inner narrator, a quiet voice that comments on every success, every mistake, and every uncertainty. Sometimes that voice is encouraging. More often, it becomes our harshest critic. It reminds us of failures long after everyone else has forgotten them. It predicts rejection before anyone has spoken. It whispers that we are too late, too broken, or too ordinary to create the life we truly desire. The tragedy is not that these thoughts appear. The tragedy is that we believe them without question. This is why the third Buddhist habit is so transformative. Learn to observe your thoughts without immediately believing them. At first, this idea may sound unusual because most of us have spent our entire lives assuming that whatever appears in our minds must be true. If the mind says we are not capable, we accept it as fact. If it predicts disaster, we prepare ourselves for disappointment. Yet the Buddha encouraged people to examine the mind with curiosity instead of blind obedience. A thought is simply a mental event. It is not reality itself. Just because a cloud appears in the sky does not mean a storm will last forever. In the same way, a fearful thought passing through your mind does not define your future unless you choose to follow it. Imagine sitting beside a peaceful river. Leaves drift across the surface one after another. Some are large, others are small. Some move quickly, while others float slowly with the current. You do not feel the need to jump into the river and collect every leaf that passes by. You simply watch them appear and disappear. Thoughts can be treated in exactly the same way. Some thoughts deserve your attention because they help you grow or solve real problems. Many others are nothing more than passing leaves carried by the current of the mind. When you stop chasing every one of them, something beautiful begins to happen. The river continues flowing, but you remain peacefully seated on the shore. Perhaps one of the most painful stories we tell ourselves is the story of the past. We replay old conversations, remembering what we should have said. We relive mistakes, wishing we could make different choices. We carry guilt for opportunities we missed or relationships that ended. Over time, these memories become heavier than the events themselves. We are no longer suffering because of what happened years ago. We are suffering because we continue reliving it today. The past has become a place where the body can never return, yet the mind visits it every single day. In doing so, we unknowingly abandon the only moment where healing is actually possible. This is why the fourth Buddhist habit is learning to release attachment to the past. Releasing does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending painful experiences never happened. Every experience leaves behind a lesson, and those lessons help us grow wiser. But Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that there is a difference between carrying a lesson and carrying a burden. A lesson makes us stronger. A burden keeps us trapped. The purpose of yesterday is to teach us, not to imprison us. Once the lesson has been learned, continuing to punish yourself serves no purpose except prolonging suffering. Think of a traveler climbing a mountain with a heavy backpack. At first, the supplies inside are necessary. They provide food, water, and protection for the journey ahead. But imagine that as the traveler continues climbing, they begin collecting stones from every place they visit. Each stone represents an old regret, an embarrassing memory, or a painful disappointment. None of these stones help them reach the summit. They simply make every step more exhausting. Many of us live exactly this way. We continue carrying emotional weight that no longer serves us because we have forgotten that we are free to set it down. As you reflect on your own life, ask yourself gently, what story have I been repeating that no longer helps me? Perhaps it is the belief that one mistake defines who you are. Perhaps it is the fear that your best days are already behind you. Or perhaps it is the quiet assumption that you must continue suffering because of something that happened long ago. Whatever that story may be, remember that it is only a story. It can be rewritten. It can be released. And in the next part of our journey, we will discover how comparing ourselves to others quietly steals our peace, and how two more timeless Buddhist habits can help us reclaim the joy that has always existed within the present moment. As we begin releasing the painful stories of the past, another hidden habit quietly reveals itself. It is a habit so common that many people no longer recognize it as a source of suffering. Every day, we measure our lives against someone else's. We compare our success to theirs, our appearance to theirs, our relationships to theirs, and even our spiritual journey to theirs. Without realizing it, we begin believing that our worth depends on how we rank beside other people. The more we compare, the more incomplete we feel. No matter how much we achieve, there is always someone who seems happier, wealthier, wiser, or further ahead. The mind convinces us that peace is waiting somewhere beyond the next accomplishment, yet each new achievement only creates another comparison. This endless race has no finish line because it was never meant to be won. The Buddha understood that comparison is rooted in attachment, the attachment to identity, status, and the desire to become someone other than who we are in this moment. When we compare ourselves, we stop seeing life clearly. We no longer appreciate our own path because we are too busy watching someone else's. Imagine climbing a beautiful mountain trail. Along the way are quiet forests, flowing streams, and breathtaking views. But instead of noticing the beauty surrounding you, you spend the entire journey looking sideways at other hikers. You worry about who is walking faster, who carries a lighter backpack, or who will reach the summit first. By the time you arrive, you realize you have missed the very experience you set out to enjoy. Life often feels exactly the same. We become so focused on measuring our progress against others that we forget to experience our own journey. This is why the fifth Buddhist habit is practicing gratitude every day. Gratitude is not simply saying thank you for the good things in life. It is learning to recognize abundance where the mind has been trained to see only lack. A grateful heart naturally weakens the habit of comparison because it shifts attention from what is missing to what is already present. Instead of asking, "Why don't I have what they have?" gratitude gently asks, "What blessings have I overlooked today?" Perhaps it is your health. Perhaps it is someone who genuinely cares about you. Perhaps it is the simple gift of another sunrise, another opportunity to begin again. These moments may seem ordinary, yet they form the foundation of a meaningful life. Consider the lotus flower, one of the most enduring symbols in Buddhist teaching. It grows from muddy water, yet it blooms with extraordinary beauty, untouched by the mud beneath it. The lotus never compares itself to the bamboo growing nearby or the trees reaching toward the sky. It fulfills its own nature completely. If the lotus spent its life wishing it were a pine tree, it would never blossom into what it was created to become. Human beings often make this mistake. We spend so much energy wishing for another person's path that we neglect the unique gifts quietly waiting to unfold within our own lives. The sixth Buddhist habit is learning to walk your own path with patience and trust. Every life follows a different rhythm. Some people discover their purpose early, while others find it much later. Some experience success in youth, while others blossom after decades of quiet perseverance. The mind loves to create imaginary deadlines, telling us that we should already be further ahead. But nature offers a wiser lesson. A bamboo forest does not criticize the cherry blossoms for blooming in spring. The cherry blossoms do not envy the oak tree for growing slowly over many years. Each follows its own season, and each contributes beauty in its own way. Why should your life be any different? Walking your own path requires courage because it means letting go of the need for constant approval. It asks you to stop measuring your progress by someone else's milestones and instead pay attention to your own growth. You may still admire others, learn from them, and celebrate their success, but you no longer use their journey as evidence that yours is lacking. This subtle shift brings remarkable freedom. The heart becomes lighter because it is no longer carrying the impossible burden of proving its worth through comparison. As you continue reflecting on these habits, ask yourself one gentle question: have I been living my life, or have I been chasing someone else's version of success? There is no need to answer with guilt or regret. Simply notice the question and allow it to guide your awareness. Every time you choose gratitude over comparison, and every time you honor your own path instead of competing with another's, you quietly rebuild the relationship you have with yourself. In the next part of our journey, we will explore two more powerful Buddhist habits that help us stop seeking validation from the outside world and begin discovering the quiet strength that has always existed within. There is a quiet burden that many people carry without ever speaking about it. It is the constant need to be accepted, admired, or approved by others. At first, this desire seems perfectly natural. Human beings are social by nature. We all want to feel loved, respected, and understood. But somewhere along the way, something changes. Instead of appreciating kindness when it comes, we begin depending on it. Instead of living according to our own values, we slowly shape ourselves around other people's opinions. We measure our worth by compliments, our success by applause, and our happiness by whether others choose to accept us. Without realizing it, we hand over the keys to our inner peace, allowing strangers, co-workers, friends, or even family members to decide how we feel about ourselves. The Buddha understood that anything dependent upon the changing opinions of others can never provide lasting peace. People's thoughts are as changeable as the weather. Someone may praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. One person may admire qualities that another completely overlooks. If your happiness depends upon receiving approval, then your peace will always rise and fall with circumstances you cannot control. This is why seeking validation from the outside world becomes another quiet form of self-sabotage. It keeps you chasing something that can never truly satisfy the heart. This leads us to the seventh Buddhist habit: be kind to yourself before asking the world to be kind to you. Many people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to another human being. After making a mistake, they immediately call themselves a failure. After experiencing disappointment, they convince themselves they are not good enough. They expect perfection from themselves while offering patience and understanding to everyone else. Imagine a close friend coming to you after failing at something important. Would you tell them they were hopeless? Would you say they would never succeed again? Most likely, you would encourage them. You would remind them that one mistake does not define an entire life. Yet when the same situation happens to us, compassion suddenly disappears. Buddhist wisdom gently asks us to become our own friend instead of our own enemy. Self-compassion is not making excuses for poor choices. It is recognizing that growth has always included mistakes. Every person who has ever become wise first experienced confusion. Every person who has ever become strong first faced weakness. The lotus flower does not bloom despite the mud. It blooms because it grows through the mud. In the same way, your difficult experiences are not evidence that you are failing. They are often the very conditions that help wisdom grow. When you begin treating yourself with patience instead of constant criticism, something remarkable happens. The fear of failure begins losing its power because your worth is no longer dependent upon being perfect. The eighth Buddhist habit is accepting imperfection as part of life's natural order. Modern society often teaches us that happiness comes after everything has finally been fixed. We believe we will feel peaceful once we have the perfect career, the perfect relationship, the perfect body, or the perfect version of ourselves. But perfection is like the horizon. The closer you believe you are getting, the further it seems to move away. A mind chasing perfection never rests because it is always searching for one more improvement before allowing itself to feel enough. Nature offers a different lesson. Walk through an ancient forest and you will not find two trees that are exactly alike. Some are tall, others are bent by years of wind and rain. Some carry broken branches, yet continue growing toward the sunlight. None of them apologize for the shape they have become. They simply continue living according to their own nature. Human beings are often far less forgiving toward themselves than nature is toward every living thing. Accepting imperfection does not mean abandoning your goals or refusing to improve. It simply means understanding that your value has never depended upon flawless performance. You are worthy of peace while you are still learning. You are worthy of kindness while you are still healing. You are worthy of love even while parts of your life remain unfinished. This understanding removes an enormous weight from the heart because it allows you to grow from a place of self-respect instead of self-rejection. As you reflect today, ask yourself one quiet question. Whose approval have I been chasing, and what has it cost me? Perhaps it has cost you your confidence. Perhaps it has cost you your authenticity. Or perhaps it has simply stolen the joy of being yourself. The moment you stop asking the world to tell you who you are, you begin discovering who you have been all along. In the next part, we will explore two more timeless Buddhist habits that bring peace into everyday life, showing how small, mindful actions practiced consistently can rebuild your life one ordinary day at a time. There is a common belief that a peaceful life is created through dramatic transformation. Many people imagine that one day they will discover a secret insight, make a major change, or reach a certain milestone, and suddenly everything will feel different. Yet Buddhist wisdom points in another direction. A peaceful life is rarely built through extraordinary moments. It is built through ordinary moments repeated with awareness. The quality of your life is often determined not by what happens once in a while, but by what happens every single day. Small habits may appear insignificant when viewed individually, but over time they shape the direction of an entire life. Think about a river carving its way through solid rock. It does not accomplish this through one powerful surge. It does so through steady movement, day after day, year after year. The same principle applies to inner peace. We often underestimate the power of small choices because their results are not immediately visible. A single mindful breath seems unimportant. A few moments of gratitude seem insignificant. One quiet walk without distraction appears ordinary. Yet these simple practices gradually reshape the mind in ways that endless striving never can. The heart becomes calmer, not because life stops being difficult, but because we learn how to meet life differently. This brings us to the ninth Buddhist habit. Live one moment at a time. Most self-sabotage happens when the mind abandons the present. It rushes into the future searching for problems that do not yet exist, or it returns to the past, looking for answers that can no longer be changed. Meanwhile, the only moment where life is actually happening is quietly ignored. The Buddha repeatedly emphasized the importance of returning to the present because the present is where peace lives. Anxiety depends upon the future. Regret depends upon the past. Peace depends upon awareness. Imagine drinking a cup of tea. For many people, even this simple activity becomes rushed. The mind is already planning tomorrow's schedule, replaying yesterday's conversation, or scrolling through endless distractions. The tea is consumed, but never truly experienced. Now imagine drinking the same cup of tea with full attention. You notice the warmth in your hands. You notice the aroma rising from the cup. You feel the gentle act of breathing. Nothing extraordinary has changed, yet the experience becomes richer because your attention has finally arrived where your body already is. This is mindfulness in its simplest form. It is not about escaping life. It is about fully entering it. The 10th Buddhist habit is simplifying your life. Modern culture often encourages the opposite. We are told to accumulate more, do more, achieve more, and constantly seek stimulation. As a result, many people live surrounded by noise, not only physical noise but mental noise as well. Their schedules are crowded, their attention is divided, their minds are overwhelmed by endless information. The problem is not that life becomes busy. The problem is that busyness begins replacing presence. Buddhist wisdom teaches that peace often grows in simplicity. This does not mean abandoning responsibilities or living without ambition. It means learning to distinguish between what is essential and what is unnecessary. Consider a traveler carrying a heavy bag during a long journey. At first, the weight may seem manageable, but as the miles pass, every unnecessary item becomes a burden. Eventually, the traveler realizes that the journey becomes easier not by becoming stronger, but by carrying less. The same truth applies to the mind. Many of us are carrying unnecessary worries, commitments, distractions, and expectations. We continue adding more while wondering why life feels so heavy. Simplifying life creates space. Space to think clearly. Space to rest. Space to notice beauty. Space to reconnect with what truly matters. When the mind is no longer overwhelmed by endless demands, gratitude becomes easier. Compassion becomes easier. Presence becomes easier. What once felt complicated begins to feel manageable again. Perhaps this is why some of the wisest people appear to live very simple lives. They understand that happiness is not created through constant accumulation. It emerges when we stop filling every empty space and learn to appreciate what is already here. A quiet morning, a meaningful conversation, a walk beneath the trees, a few moments of stillness before the day begins. These simple experiences often contain more peace than the achievements we spend years chasing. As you reflect on these habits, ask yourself gently, what can I release to create more space in my life? It may be an unnecessary commitment, a distracting habit, or a constant need to stay busy. Whatever it is, remember that peace rarely arrives through adding more. More often, it arrives through letting go. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the final 2 Buddhist habits that help rebuild a life from within, habits that teach us how to choose compassion over judgment and trust the unfolding process of life itself. As our journey begins drawing toward its final chapter, one truth becomes increasingly clear. Rebuilding your life is not a single decision. It is 1,000 small decisions made with awareness. Many people become discouraged because they expect transformation to happen overnight. They begin a new habit, meditate for a few days, read an inspiring book, and hope that years of emotional pain will suddenly disappear. When life remains imperfect, they conclude that nothing has changed. But nature has never worked this way. The tallest tree in the forest was once an invisible seed resting beneath the soil. Day after day, it grew in silence. No one applauded its progress. No one noticed the roots spreading deeper into the earth. Yet those unseen roots eventually became the foundation for extraordinary strength. Your own healing follows the same quiet rhythm. This brings us to the 11th Buddhist habit. Choose compassion over judgment. Most people believe judgment protects them. They judge themselves to avoid future mistakes. They judge others to feel more secure. They judge situations before fully understanding them because certainty feels safer than curiosity. Yet judgment often closes the heart, while compassion gently opens it again. The Buddha taught that every person carries unseen burdens. Every smile may hide silent struggles. Every angry word may come from hidden pain. Every unkind action may reflect suffering that has never been healed. When we remember this, our perspective begins to change. Instead of asking, "Why are they like this?" we begin asking, "What pain might they be carrying?" This simple shift does not excuse harmful behavior, but it allows wisdom to replace resentment. The same compassion must also be extended toward yourself. Think about how often you judge your own progress. You tell yourself that you should be stronger by now. You should have healed faster. You should have made better decisions. But healing is not a race. There is no universal timeline that determines when your heart should feel whole again. Every person blooms in their own season. Imagine walking through a forest after a storm. Some trees remain untouched, others have broken branches. Some lean slightly after years of strong winds. Yet none of them are failures because they bear the marks of difficult seasons. Their scars tell the story of survival. Human beings are no different. The difficult experiences you have lived through are not proof that you are broken. They are proof that you have continued walking despite the storms. The 12th and final Buddhist habit is learning to trust the process of life. This may be one of the most difficult habits to practice because the mind constantly demands immediate answers. It wants certainty before taking the next step. It wants guarantees before opening the heart again. It wants to know exactly how every chapter will end before allowing itself to enjoy the one it is living. But life has never revealed itself that way. Imagine reading a beautiful book while refusing to turn the page until you know exactly what happens in every remaining chapter. The story could never be experienced because your desire for certainty would prevent the journey itself. Many people approach life in exactly this way. They postpone joy until every question has been answered. They postpone peace until every problem has been solved. They postpone living until they finally feel ready. Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that readiness is often discovered through action, not before it. The path becomes visible as we walk it. Consider a farmer planting seeds at the beginning of spring. After placing them into the earth, the farmer does not dig them up every morning to check whether they have started growing. He waters them patiently. He protects the soil. He trusts the unseen process taking place beneath the surface. Growth cannot be forced, but it can be supported through faithful daily care. Your own life deserves the same trust. Every mindful breath you take matters. Every kind word you speak matters. Every moment you choose forgiveness instead of resentment matters. Every time you refuse to believe a fearful thought, you strengthen a new way of living. Most of these changes will be invisible at first, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, your mind becomes calmer, your heart becomes lighter, your reactions become wiser. One day you may look back and realize that the person you once were no longer exists. Not because one extraordinary event changed everything, but because hundreds of quiet choices transformed you from within. As we arrive at the final part of this reflection, we will gather these 12 Buddhist habits into one timeless message. You will discover that rebuilding your life has never been about becoming someone else. It has always been about returning to the peaceful, compassionate, and wise person who has been waiting within you all along. As we reach the end of this reflection, take a slow, gentle breath. There is no need to hurry. For the past few moments, you have explored 12 timeless Buddhist habits, not as rules to follow perfectly, but as quiet reminders of who you have always been beneath the noise, the fear, and the endless expectations. Perhaps you have recognized some of your own struggles along the way. Perhaps you have seen yourself in the habit of overthinking, comparing, seeking approval, or carrying burdens that were never yours to hold forever. If so, know this. Awareness is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning. Many people spend their lives believing they need to become someone completely different before they deserve happiness. They tell themselves, "When I am more successful, then I will feel enough. When I fix all my flaws, then I will love myself. When everything finally goes according to plan, then I will allow myself to feel at peace." But peace has never depended on becoming another person. According to Buddhist wisdom, peace begins the moment you stop fighting the person you already are. Throughout this journey, each habit has quietly pointed toward the same truth. Self-awareness teaches you to see yourself honestly. Acceptance teaches you to stop resisting reality. Mindful observation reminds you that not every thought deserves your attention. Letting go of the past frees your heart from burdens that no longer belong to you. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is already abundant. Walking your own path releases you from the endless trap of comparison. Self-compassion softens the harsh voice within. Accepting imperfection allows growth without fear. Living in the present returns you to the only moment where life truly exists. Simplicity creates space for peace. Compassion opens the heart toward yourself and others. And trusting life's process reminds you that everything meaningful grows with patience. Notice how none of these habits require extraordinary talent. They do not depend on wealth, status, or perfect circumstances. They begin with small choices that anyone can make. A single mindful breath before reacting in anger. A moment of gratitude before going to sleep. Choosing forgiveness instead of resentment. Listening with your full attention instead of preparing your next response. Speaking kindly to yourself after making a mistake. These moments may seem insignificant, yet they quietly shape the person you become. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest just before sunrise. The world is silent. The path ahead disappears into the trees, and you cannot see where it will eventually lead. Years ago, this uncertainty might have frightened you. You may have refused to take the first step until the entire journey became visible. But now you understand something different. Every traveler discovers the path by walking it. Every sunrise begins in darkness. Every great tree once existed as a seed hidden beneath the soil. Life has never asked you to know everything before moving forward. It has only asked you to take the next mindful step. There will still be difficult days. There will be mornings when old habits quietly return. Your mind may begin comparing again. It may replay painful memories or imagine fearful futures. This does not mean you have failed. It simply means you are human. The purpose of these teachings is not to create perfection. Their purpose is to help you return to peace more quickly each time you lose your way. Every moment offers a new beginning. Every breath is another opportunity to choose awareness instead of fear, compassion instead of judgment, and presence instead of distraction. So as you leave this reflection, carry one simple reminder with you. You do not rebuild your life in a single day. You rebuild it one thought, one habit, one choice, and one peaceful moment at a time. The person you are becoming is already growing beneath the surface, just as roots quietly strengthen a tree long before anyone sees its branches reaching toward the sky. Trust that growth. Trust the process. And above all, trust yourself. Thank you for spending this time with Silent Wisdom. If these timeless Buddhist teachings have brought even a small sense of clarity to your heart, consider subscribing and returning whenever you need a moment of stillness in a noisy world. Until we meet again, may your mind become lighter, your heart become gentler, and your path unfold with wisdom, compassion, and lasting inner peace. Remember this above all else. The life you long for does not begin when the world changes. It begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself and start walking each day with awareness, kindness, and trust.